It's easier to do it up high.
How you doing?
Pretty good. I have to record somebody else.
Okay. Is that good, Carla? Is it really good? What are you eating? Can't talk. Okay. Bye.
Oh, yeah. Here you
Hi,
go.
Grandpa.
My favorite place to go.
Okay. That's
Okay.
me.
Bye-bye. Hi.
So wonderful to see you all. Come on, Carson. Strip.
Grandma. Hi, sorry.
Right at the table.
And I went to the side, and then
It's true, it's our anniversary party, but I'd like to celebrate all of you who have come here, all our good friends who've known you for many years, different times and different places. I'm so happy to see you all here today. Thank you. Here. Okay.
Ready to eat. It's amazing how their food.
Oh, we're being taped.
Andrew, is that good?
Oh, yeah, that is very good.
He's eating clam chowder. It's really good.
Don't you tell people.
Wait. Is that good?
Hear it within 10 minutes via email.
Delicious.
and all having such a good time. I am Roberta's sister. I've known her longer than anybody in the room. Despite that, I'm here to celebrate what few people can achieve and have achieved, and I honor them as we all do. And I'm so happy to be here with you all, and I see what good friends they have, and it is very touching to me tonight. So can we drink to them?
Thank you.
Half of us were paid.
Let's go to the future.
Yes.
How is it? Yummy.
it's particularly important tonight for those of you who are from the Bronx to raise your hand. Come on, raise your hand if you're from the Bronx. Everybody here from Brooklyn. All those people from Brooklyn. Well, those of you who are not from the Bronx, or are not from Brooklyn,
Raise your hand.
that would be good. Pay particular attention. Those of you who are from the Bronx or Brooklyn, pay very particular attention. It looked extremely rocky for the Bronxville team that day. The score was 4-2 with 1 inning left to play. 2 outs happened swiftly. 2 ground balls were oh so tame. A pallor wreathed the features of those Bronxvilles in the game. Roberta stalked the streets, hoping for the best, with that hope that springs eternal from within the human breast. For she thought, if only Leon could get a whack at that, who would bet against us with Leon at the bat? But Carla was at bat next, then Galen had his shot. The former had no hits, the latter choked a lot. On that stricken half-ball court, a death-like silence sat, for there seemed but little chance of Leon's getting to the bat. But Carla let go a single to the wonderment of all. Then Galen, the big brother, tore the cover off the ball. So when the dust had settled and they saw what had occurred, there was Galen safe at second and Carla hugging third. Then from reborn Roberta went up a joyous yell. It bounded from the mountaintop and rattled in the dell. It struck upon the hillside and rebounded on the flat. For Leon, mighty Leon, was advancing to the bat. There was ease in Leon's manner as he stepped into his place. There was pride in Leon's bearing and a smile on Leon's face. There was a glint in Leon's eye, a trick beneath his hat. No stranger to the Bronx would doubt 'twas Leon at the bat. He knew he'd beat these Brooklyn bums as he rubbed his hands with dirt. He knew the moment was his as he wiped them on his shirt. And when the Brooklyn pitcher gripped the ball into his hip, defiance glanced from Leon's eyes. A sneer curled Leon's. And now the leather-covered sneer came curving through the air, and Leon stood a-watching it in haughty grandeur there. Close by a sturdy batsman, the ball unheeded sped. That ain't my style, said Leon. Strike one! Roberta was on fire from her mighty roar, like the beating of the storm waves on a stern and distant shore. Kill him, kill the umpire, Roberta shouted. Until someone reminded her it was Galen behind the plate. With a smile of noble charity, Leon whispered to his wife, that guy from Brooklyn can't get me out, not for all his life. He signaled ready to the Brooklyn guy. Once more the spheroid flew, but Leon still ignored it, and Galen said, strike two! Roberta chided Galen, Roberta chided Galen, the game's at risk, you know. The Bronx will never live it down if this championship we blow. Leon's face grew stern and cold, one could see his muscles strain, and it was clear that Leon would not let that ball go by again. The sneer was gone from Leon's lip, yet he stopped to tell a joke. He knows he's got it in the bag with just one Leon stroke. That guy from Brooklyn holds the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Leon's blow. Oh, somewhere in this favored land, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Bronxville. Mighty Leon has struck out. Leon and Roberta, our friends for many years. We've witnessed many trials and overcome many fears. Marie and I felt some guilt about how this story ends. So to prove our friendship worthy, we thought we'd make amends. We searched the history of Bronxville and that of Brooklyn too, looking for the truth that we could report to you. In a darkened corner of the New York Library, we found the real and final version of what happened on that mound. The account you heard was true, alas, but for one small mistake. So here and now, before you all, the correction we will make. A guy from Brooklyn holds the ball, and now he lets it go. And now the air is shattered by the force of Leon's blow. And oh, somewhere in the Bronx, my friends, the sun is shining bright. The band is playing somewhere, and somewhere hearts are light. And somewhere men are laughing, and somewhere children shout. But there is no joy in Brooklyn. Mighty Leon, hit it out!
I feel obligated to tell you.
You didn't hit it out?
Mort and I have been playing tennis regularly for a very long time.
35 years. That's not true.
Where? Where do you play?
He left Palo Alto to
I've been playing
avoid,
tennis for 35 years. We have been trying to play tennis.
he left Palo Alto for San Francisco to avoid these early morning matches. Now the poem that he read to you was a real surprise to me. I never knew he had such Scottish talent. That was amazing. It was up to a point, a true story. Once a year, the two families would play half-ball, a game which most of you have never heard of, which consists of trying to hit half of a small rubber ball or a small tennis ball with a broomstick and emulating baseball. And the Rayfields and the Rosenbergs had this match, and I don't really know what the cumulative score is over the years. I assume it's pretty close to even. Mostly because the Rayfields have a ringer in the younger Rayfield, a very good hitter and a very good fielder. And the Rosenbergs do not have a ringer. But I have been asked by almost everybody here, how do you get married and stay married for 50 years? And I've thought about this a lot. I ought to share my wisdom. There are some people here who've been married for longer than 50 years, and some whose marriages were shortened by catastrophe and tragedy. But I think we have learned something, and I thought you would all like to learn something from the scientific studies that I have.
You weren't kidding me.
You're taking 45 minutes.
It's only been 5 minutes and I stand on his there. At any rate, the understanding of this whole issue requires, first of all, a bit of an understanding, and I'll give you the background to this, on the Human Genome Project. We're going to begin with the Human Genome Project. And my friend Ross has asked if I have slides, but I will paint you vivid visual pictures. Slides. Okay. Now, we can break the question down into 2 questions. How did we get together, and how come we have survived together below these many years? And the Human Genome Project has answers that are relevant to both of these questions. When you're very young,
Is this a fact?
when you're very young, as we were, believe it or not, you're driven by hormones, biochemical substances in the body that determine the actions of people. And the hormones tend to be sexually specific. For females, estradiol is a particular hormone, and for males, testosterone, for which the Human Genome Project has discovered the many, many, many genes that regulate their synthesis. And one...
Need some visuals.
We are coming to a denouement. Now, it is true that the principal determinants that led to Roberta and Leon getting together were hormones, estradiol and testosterone, for which I won't bore you with the whole set of genes that are determined with their regulation.
Thank you.
But there are...
You know, your granddaughter picked up a knife.
I've got a captive audience.
Where do you speak tomorrow?
I am trained to talk for 40 minutes. Sit down, Carson. At any rate, there are a set of other genes that have been worked out in the studies of the Human Genome Project that have to do with the other factors that regulate what the hormone determinant factors will do. And these are called the EX, or the exotic genes. And they come in many, many forms in the human population. But both Roberta and I had a particular allele that had us prefer the exotic. Now, what do I mean by that?
Lingerie?
In what respect was Roberta exotic? Well, if you grow up in the Bronx, and you are, by some process I won't bore you, moved to Columbus, Ohio, then if you see a tall, pretty, attractive young woman who speaks quietly, never interrupts. When she speaks, she has something to say.
She doesn't use her hands.
You'll be a co-author on this paper. Has something to contribute and contributes it. That's exotic. When this woman has parents that are really very different. First of all, the father has a gun. and he goes fishing, and he shoots squirrels and feeds them to his family. This father is exotic, and the exoticism spreads to Roberta. And when they grow strawberries in the backyard, from the Bronx, one never heard of a backyard. That's all very exotic. In ways I won't bore you with, the mother is equally exotic. They represent old America, Americans who came here a long time ago, Americans who represent the best of the Protestant Reformation. I've never met anybody who represents the Protestant Reformation. Americans who represent Winesburg, Ohio, and Sherwood Anderson. You read about this in high school and college. This is all new to you. This is really exotic. Now, what is exotic about Leon to Roberta? That's easier to understand. Quinces. That's exotic. Sour cream and cottage cheese for lunch. That's exotic. Talking, 3 people sitting at the table, all talking simultaneously. That's exotic. Leon, who knows everything about everything. That's exotic. There's no question you could put to Leon. He won't answer. That's exotic. So that is this mutual exoticism that we found in each other. And so we celebrated it by getting married. But then the question is, why did it last for 50 years? Well, there's another set of genes that has unraveled, which will be published shortly. And these, a few of you have heard about these, are the stubbornness genes. Having made a decision, one does not change one's mind because one does not make mistakes. So, with these determinants, which are essentially Mendelian in nature, you end up married as we have been for 50 years, which I recommend to all of you. Thank you. Me?
Years ago, when Roberta was in her early 20s, she was a long-legged, stylish beauty. She still is.
Yes.
I was in my late teens, and I thought she was a woman of the world, a wonderful person, fun to be with, interesting to talk to, interested in social issues, cultured, intellectual. She still is. We were roommates in a grubby little railroad flat that I had sublet from Ralph Izard on Chestnut Street. It was on the hill just below Grant Avenue, 3 small rooms, each one opening into the next. I had the middle one between the front and the kitchen. When Roberta moved in, she got the tiny front room. She painted it a deep butterscotch yellow. I loved to open the front door and walk into her golden room. She had matched the color to the corn stalks in a small tempera painting by Emmylou Packard that she had bought at the California Labor School. She still has it. Roberta had a real office job, and I went to art school. On Saturdays, we shopped North Beach. We bought fresh ricotta at Valley of the Moon, zucchini and sausages and French bread at Rossi's and Gusto's, fresh pasta at Florence Ravioli. Sometimes Chuck strolled along with us. He lived in North Beach too. Roberta was a humanist and an activist. She still is. Roberta was writing a lot of letters to a man she'd met at Ohio State, who had moved to New York. She showed me a picture he sent her of himself. He looked intelligent, like a mighty nice guy. He still is. The picture shows him laughing, flinging his arms wide. Funny and exuberant, he still is. Finally, Roberta couldn't take it any longer. Long-distance romance was not for her. She quit her job, packed her things, and took off for the Big Apple. After chasing Leon around his kitchen table a few times, she caught him. They tied the knot. It's still tied. When they emigrated from Texas back to California, Chuck and I had married. Eventually, the four of us became good friends. We still are. For over 50 years, our life has been richer, more interesting, and more fun because our dear friends, Roberta and Leon, have been a part of it. They still are. Happy anniversary.
One evening at his home, he said to me, "I have taken up calligraphy." And I said, "Show me some." So he did. He brought out a piece of paper and it had all kinds of nonsense stuff on it. And I said, "Leon, what does this say?" And every time I said that to him, he would tell me something in Yiddish. Like, the ganze Bespuche is doing es nicht gut. So,
Translate.
the whole family is here, it's not good. So, he brought one out. It had a bunch of nonsense stuff. And at the bottom, there was one line that was in parentheses. And he said, "The stuff in the parentheses explains what's on it." So, I do some Oriental brush painting. And one evening, we were out to dinner with the Rosenbergs. And Leon said to me, "Why don't we do something collaborative? You do a painting and I'll put the calligraphy on it." So I did a painting and I gave it to Leon. And 2 days later he gave it back to me with calligraphy on it. And I said, "Leon, what does this say?" "Well, I have to show you the painting." This is the painting.
Beautiful.
Wow.
And this is his calligraphy. And I say, "What does this say?" And again, in Yiddish, he says, "Was für ein Narr is das?" A nar in Yiddish is a fool. What kind of a fool is this? And he says, and the answer is Narcissus. I'm giving this to you.
I have to tell you folks, that not only is all of what he said true, and not only does he do beautiful Japanese and Chinese, mostly Chinese brush painting, but we now have two of these. Thank you very much. It's beautiful.
My daughter Lynn and her husband send these to you.
Maybe we can eat.
You're right.
For dessert. That are very, very fond, as we all are, of Roberta and Leon. And we told them about how Leon has this habit of
filching the persimmons. He goes around the neighborhood checking out how they're doing. And we told her about it, and they have a small persimmon tree. So she said she wanted us to give that to you to keep you from a life of crime. And she also, but she also said that they have more, and you're welcome to them, but you have to ask.
Harvesting, not filching. Never been, to my knowledge, and probably all of you have the same experience, it's never a loss for worse. Except, I just want to tell you one little incident. About 4 or 5 years ago, Leon and I, for years, have had the same taste in music, except about 5 years ago, he went crazy and started liking modern stuff. Yeah, all right, but that's beside the point. So one visit, we came over, and Leon takes out a CD and says to me, I want you to reserve comment. Don't say anything until this is finished. And I promised not to say anything. Meanwhile, Roberta's in the kitchen. And he puts this on, and it was the most horrible thing I ever heard. But I didn't say anything. Meanwhile, Roberta comes out and sits down in her chair, picks up the paper. Then she looks up and says, Leon, what is this junk you're playing? Except she didn't say junk. Knowing Roberta, she would say junk. I was very surprised. The word she used was not junk. And for once, Leon, he didn't say a word. He was flabbergasted. He took it off the CD, put it away, didn't say another word. I didn't say anything. But he didn't say anything. That's the first time I've known him to shut up. Usually you ask him a question, if he doesn't know it, he'll give you an answer. It's a lie, but he'll give you an answer. That's what Carson and I were talking about. He does it to his granddaughter. When we first met Roberta, it was on Colgate Avenue in the Bronx, right? Right. We lived on Colgate. They had just gotten married. We had gotten married the year before. Leon and I knew each other since we were, well, he was 4, I was 6. And we could never understand why a young lady like Roberta would marry someone like him with the prospect of being deaf in a little while. But they survived, and they survived lovingly, and we loved them, and we don't know what the world would be like without them.
This is just a little humorous story about Leon. My name is Jennifer Leibowitz. I am Leon and Roberta's niece. Michael Leibowitz is my father. Adrian Phillips is my mother. And this is kind of related to the persimmons because when I was very young and would come up to Palo Alto, first of all, I loved Leon and Roberta so much, and he would do this crazy frog thing. And I don't know if he did it for Darby and Carson, but Mother and I, he does it for you too? Okay. And I asked my mother, I said, did it scare me or did I love it? Because I couldn't remember exactly. Did it scare me or did I really like it?
I think both, actually.
Both. It alternately terrified me and delighted me at the same time. But back to the persimmon story. I remember driving through Menlo Park in their old white Volvo, and Uncle Leon in his Birkenstocks going, oh, apricots, and pulling over, and sitting in the back seat while my crazy uncle is scaling the walls of Menlo Park to pull apricots, stealing apricots off of people's trees. I'm thinking that was so great, and telling all my friends back at school, my uncle is a professor at Stanford, and he steals apricots. I think it was so great. And I'll never forget that. So it's so funny that he also stole persimmons.
Also plum tomato.
Red raspberry.
Everything, so.
Raw banks also.
Yeah. Maybe stolen fruit is all the sweeter, so.
He's a gleamer.
He's a gleamer, exactly.
Just sharing, there's too much food in there.
that is tell you all a joke. But I'm not going to tell you one of his jokes, so.
Thank you.
Yeah, okay. So this is in the future, it takes place, and the little black box in planes, they decide that it's not enough safety protection because you can't tell what everybody's doing on the plane if the plane goes down. So they decide to put monkeys on the plane because monkeys never die when planes crash. So, time goes on and planes don't usually crash very often, but there's a horrible plane crash a couple years later, and everybody on the plane dies except for, of course, the monkey because he just bounces around. And so the guy who can talk to monkeys goes up to the monkey and says, "What was the pilot doing when the plane crashed?" And the monkey goes, "Shoo, shoo." "What was the co-pilot doing?" "Shoo, shoo." "What were you doing?"
Appropriately, I think everybody's taken a humorous touch to this speech making, but I'll be serious here for a moment. First of all, again, we all really appreciate all of you coming this evening. It's an expression of the kind of relationship that some of you have had now for well over 50 years, and it's something that I deeply respect and admire, that kind of commitment. I want to talk just for a moment about a few things that I've learned from my parents. One of the most important things I've learned from them is commitment to principles, things that really matter beyond our own individual concerns, but to something larger than ourselves, the values that have to do with the world that we live in the largest sense. It's just a small symbol of that, I suppose, but my mother has a rap sheet. She was arrested in San Francisco for distributing literature. My father has an FBI file.
Not for persimmon, surely.
They don't mention the persimmons, they miss them.
Only the red
but their commitment to causes and to principles has existed throughout their whole life. And I frankly feel like I've never been able to live up even to half of what they've contributed to the world beyond themselves. But it's still something that I value very deeply, and I learned it from them. I also haven't yet learned something from them, and I hope I never have to, which is the courage that it took to live through the loss of a child. I thought a lot about bringing this up because it's certainly the most terrible down note that we could bring up this evening, but it seemed to be wrong not to mention Bevan. It's a thought that I block out of my mind as soon as it enters because I think of my own children and what it would mean to lose one. But it does teach me about what courage really is about and commitment to something beyond yourself, because to experience a loss like that and go on and live your life as best you can and love your children and continue to work and to do all the things that you have to do just to exist in the world after a loss like that is something that I'm sure obviously all of us would never want to experience, that they have, and the courage that they have always shown up to this day, living through that is something that I hope I don't have to learn from except from observing their own experience. And the last thing that I've learned from them is what's really evident today, which is loyalty to other people, to friends and family, in spite of difficult times and conflicts, disagreements. They have friends that they've had their whole life. And they've always maintained their relationships with their family members. And in the end, that's, I think, the most important thing that I've learned from them, and I hope that I can live up to the example that they've set too. the kind of love and concern and connection that they feel to people over years and years and years, and that what they've gained from each other and from all of you is something that is more than you could ever really hope for from a life. And so I want to thank, again, all of you for being here and thank them for teaching me these things, and I hope that I can live up to the example that they've set for all of us.
On about Liam, perhaps for 25 years, as his role in the medical school as a professor, an educator, a researcher. We sat in committees together. But I've really known him very well over the last 15 years because we play tennis together every Saturday. Come rain, hail, snow, whatever, we're out there playing tennis. And I cannot believe that Liam ever pilfered persimmons. I've come to his support in this. I made a quick calculation that we have perhaps played 100,000 points of tennis. And never once has Liam questioned a call. I have come to that. Or have I doubted one of his calls? But a funny thing happened yesterday. We were playing with two of his friends from the Bronx. And the first service he hit, it was called out, and he immediately was up at the net, questioning and arguing with the people. So I guess you can take the man out of the Bronx, but you can't take Our tennis game, however, is not just a tennis game. Leon brings every week a joke. Some of them pretty bad. A few of them unrepeatable, especially here. But I'm happy to report that the quality of the jokes has got better in the last year or two, and now I understand why. His grandchildren tell him. He also tries to educate me, and at my age and Scottish background, I'm really ineducable. He tries to teach me Yiddish, and he tries to teach me a little about immunology. That was his specialty. And what he has taught me is I'm immunologically incapable of learning Yiddish. So Leon, I hope we'll be playing tennis for maybe not 50 more years, but certainly a long time. Roberta I know less well, and I can't speak so much about her, but I know Liam is the most honest person in the world and cannot possibly have stolen any fruit.
Ross, a question. Giggle.
Only when I tell a joke.
It's very disconcerting when you're playing with someone and he giggles.
One important thing though, if you're playing against him, you know he's a fierce competitor.
Oh, yeah.
And when his lobs are hitting the back of the line, he's tough. But I found a way to beat him. You just mentioned the name of his last department chairman. And his game goes to pieces.
Why didn't you tell us this before?
She will sit there in the back of the car and watch Leon steal persimmons with a very dignified, approving smile.
With Leon, when there was fruit that really, it's not stealing, it's harvesting. There is fruit there. It is always on, Leon, tell me if I'm right, it's always on public property, is it not?
Yes.
It's always, it's over the line, there's a line here, and it's over the line, and it's there to be harvested, and he's
maybe he's even liberating the fruit. But you know, I think what Ross said about playing tennis, because I too have played tennis with Leon. I play Sunday